Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How is it going on Christmas Day? And today, I am here to talk about how our current generation is turning into. So without further ado, here goes nothing. Shall we dig it, yo? Back then in the early 19th through the early 21st century, we had great features from Mozart, Ludwig van Beethoven, Charlie Chaplin, Walt Disney, Michael J. Jackson, Bill Hanna, Joe Barbera, Gary Coleman, Bruce Lee, Steven Hillenburg, Jim Henson, Fujio Fujiko, and other celebrities and superstars of creators we have missed a long time ago that made a lot of music, animation, radio plays, films, shows, current events, etc. We've also played our favorite video games in every arcade machine, console players, computers, handhelds, phones, etc., especially on TV, virtual realities, even in movie projectors such as the Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Kirby's Adventure in Dreamland, Pokémon Pocket Monsters Gotta Catch Them All, Pac-Man, Mega Man, known in Japan, Rickman, Street Fighter, Fatal Fury and the King of Fighters, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Sonic the Hedgehog, Tetris, and all other kinds of video games in different categories and different ratings. We've also played our favorite toys and board games we like, such as the throwback version of My Little Pony, the first to third original generations. Not the infamous redundant fourth generation from late 2010, the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, G.I. Joe A Real American Hero, Barbie, Strawberry Shortcake, Monopoly, The Game of Life, Sorry, Hot Wheels, Stretch Armstrong, Scrabble, solitaire card games, and lots of other toys, puzzles, and games we can play together, forever, and ever. We even read our favorite books out there, such as Curious George, Arthur, Caillou, Francis the Badger, The Little Critter, The Berenstain Bears, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Archie Comics, and all kinds of other books that everyone can read and learn together too, at their local public library. Everything in our city as well as our country, especially around the world, was turning officially great back then, but now in the present day, everything like this is turning upside down, and it has got to stop, forever and evermore. Most films, shows, books, video games, music, and toys nowadays from 2010 and on, which will be listed from either Wikipedia or IMDb, including the upcoming features and programs for the 2020s, which will also be listed from the description from Wikipedia and IMDb, unlike the ones from the 20th century, as well as the 2000s, especially during the coronavirus pandemic, which had debuted in the late month of March after my birthday, as it had entirely ruined the fun adventures for everyone, especially around the world too. Well, those features and programs, except for the ones that I'm officially used to, even in CGI, it had almost wasted everyone's valuable time and freedom, including mine's. Most kid channels, or any other non-profit production company providers made for children, as well as families and preteen of all ages nowadays, such as Modern Nickelodeon, Modern Disney Channel, Modern Cartoon Network, Modern Playhouse Disney, also known as Disney Junior, NBC Universal Kids Network, featuring Peacock Junior TV, DHX Media and Oasis Animation, Modern Wildbrain, Modern Frederator Studios, and Allspark/Allspark Animations. Well then, all of the TV shows and movies made by the following companies, except for the ones that I liked back then, had almost ruined our reputations, and causing chaos, ruining our whole entire celebrations, and those people who are a fan of those following shows, movies, books, music, video games, and toys, are nothing but redundant, sheepless, pathetic gangsters. What? Whoa, too soon, man? We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Share the frustration, and thanks for waiting.
Well, that was pretty stupid of me to say. But anyways, there were also reboots on the Netflix original series, Amazon Prime TV, and Hulu Plus TV, such as Care Bears and Cousins, The New Inspector Gadget, all TV shows and movie reboots owned by DreamWorks SKG, as well as Nickelodeon movies, including some cartoon shows owned by J. Ward Productions, gifted and inspired to Chris Savino, The New Animaniacs, Clifford, A Big Red Dog's New Adventure, The New Powerpuff Girls, The New Ben 10, The New Caillou franchise, The New Arthur franchise for Season 16, The New Bob the Builder, the new remake of Fireman Sam, and other kind of reboots that can bring some of the greatest memories, and then wasted our valuable time in the end. And also, The 2D flash animations from the late 2000s through early 2010s and on looks very stiff, chappy, jerky, creepy, inappropriate, redundant, disgusting, cringe-worthy, forgettable, painful, but extremely sketchy as well, along with the CGI, but only for the early 2010s and the early 2020s, which is coming up in the next 4 days. Especially during that stupid pandemic. Oh, and don't get me started on that new generation of My Little Pony from late 2010. I know I have said that multiple times than before, but then again, this show, as well as their stupid toy brand, is gonna keep running and running for ages from now on, and I don't want that to happen, never in your life. And also, those rabid pathetic people will end up raging at, insulting at, and then cyberbully, especially discipline you in real life just because they'll think that you are a menace and a disgrace to the new generation of those features and programs that you officially hate the most. Plus an obsession to the old throwback version of these following features and programs that you officially like, proving that they are way better than this. And, there are true reasons as to why our new current generation for the future, as well as our old one from the past, are now officially coming to an official end claim for everyone, especially around the entire country. Well, sooner or later. Let me show you something. According to Wikipedia, Generation X is the demographic cohort following the baby boomers and preceding the millennials. Researchers in popular media typically use birth years around 1965 to 1980 to define Generation Xers, although some sources use birth years beginning as early as 1960 and ending somewhere from 1977 to 1985. By this definition, and the U.S. Census data, there are 65.2000,000 General Xers in the United States as of 2019. Most members of Generation X are the children of the silent generation and early boomers. Xers are also often the parents of millennials and Generation Z. As for the children in the 1970s and the 1980s, a time of shifting societal values, General Xers were sometimes called the latchkey generation, due to reduced adult supervision compared to previous generations. This was a result of increasing divorce rates and increased maternal participation in the workforce, prior to widespread availability of childcare options outside the home. As for the adolescents and the young adults in the 1980s and the 1990s, Xers were officially dubbed into the MTV generation, sometimes being characterized as cynical and disaffected. Some of the cultural influences on General X youth were the musical genres of grunge and hip-hop music, and independent films. In midlife, research describes them as active, happy, and achieving a work-life balance. The cohort has been credited with entrepreneurial tendencies, and was the last generation in the United States for whom post-secondary education was broadly financially remunerative. Go figure. When I was 5 years old listening to some music on the radio, I was listening to some Michael Jackson songs from the 1970s, the 1980s, and the 1990s, and they were pretty good at that time. But whenever I checked on the news at the age of 9, I've already noticed about his death, and it was very tragic. The cause of his death was that acute propofol and that benzodiazepine intoxication. I haven't got a chance to meet him, or get his autograph from him back then. Now, on with the topic. Back then in 2015, the reasons why Alvin Hung has changed and deleted all of the features, except for both of the business-friendly and the whiteboard animation, because number 1, of the grounded videos, which I don't deserve to make due to the fact that those videos are repetitive. Number 2, they're not compatible with HTML5. Number 3, he doesn't want to get sued by all of the production companies, providers, or publishers. And number 4, he is poor, and he needs a lot of cash, and so is his family and friends. I've barely been to that site until 2018 and 2019, but that's not the point. Everyone's still a fan to those themes on that site, and they're just as toxic as the Strawberry Shortcake haterbase, the SpongeBob SquarePants fanbase, the Super Mario Bros. Fanbase, the Sonic the Hedgehog fanbase, except for the 2006 version, which was old news nowadays, just like Superman 64, the classic Woody Woodpecker fanbase, the Despicable Me fanbase, the Shrek fanbase, both either the classic or the CGI Care Bears fanbases or hatebases, the Kaya haterbase, the Dora the Explorer haterbase, and finally, the Rabbit My Little Pony Generation 4 fanbase, which killed the old previous throwbacks of My Little Pony from the early and mid-1980s. the early 1990s, and the early through mid-2000 versions of this series. Considering some interesting, or some less scary TV shows, movies, music, books and fun from the mid-1880s through the late 1960s in the United States. I wish I was born in either East New York, or Manhattan, New York, January 1st, 1970, so that I can be able to join the view of history, and make my own good decisions in my older age in the US, and this issue would have been strongly dealt the least. But now on that day, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, March 12, 2000, when some few interesting things came out very well. And before my video ends, to all of you YouTubers, Go Animators or V-Unders, Plotagon video makers, and Patreon patrons, if you ever tried to criticize, or state an opinion saying that you hate the latter one and the former two dedicated to all of the reboots you don't even like, and then like the former one and the latter two dedicated to the original throwback generations you loved, or have missed the most, those people, especially those children and some teenagers, will act childish over the silliest nonsense that's ever had in history. So there's nothing else I can say, except the fact considering of what's coming up in 2021, or 2022, either it will be good, or will be bad. What's the difference? Nobody knows. Phew. What a relief. And I'm glad I stood out of this fan base 5 to 7 years ago. And like Sam the Vlogger always say, to people who are new to YouTube, Patreon, GoAnimate, also known as Vyond, DeviantArt, Roblox, Fortnite, even though I kind of hate the entire game except for music and soundtrack, Plotagon, Gacha Life, or any other social media sites or application, please do not act like those other people from the past that did all of this total nonsense since before. I even once had a brother who played Fortnite before, and it's stupidity addicting, except for the good music. Notice self that acting like one of those brats in either of those different sites or applications you're in can only ruin your reputations and responsibility as a good person, and it could ruin your future big time, and you don't want to happen, now do you? So with all of that said, forget about the modern day generation, and forget about those people who are an obsession and defender to cringe-worthy franchises. Some of those guys like MJM, you're cool. I'm just giving everyone a warning. And I hope this coronavirus pandemic will finally come to end soon in the future, especially around the world. And to people who got affected by that bug, but still alive, make sure you recover well during pandemic, and while you're outside traveling somewhere, remember to wear a mask, and keep social distancing. Thank you, and take care during that pandemic. Peace out yo, and Happy New Year of 2021.
Warning. Those features from television, movies, games, toys, books, and music belongs to their rightful owners. Pirating videos and films without any permission will have to pay $250,000 fine, or will be sentenced 5 years in federal prison. Trolling users, flamming at users, harassing users, cyberbullying users, violating users, and killing those users are all felonies, and it has got to stop forever. Since doing those following terms are officially against the law, especially in real life, you can get arrested or face death row. And you don't want that to happen, do you? Remember to stay safe, and have a nice day.